you mind if I pray us in? And then we'll get started. God, thank you so much for gathering us here today just to rest in you, learn more about you and who you are through reading your word. God, I pray that you just give me the wisdom to speak, and I pray that all the words that come out of my mouth are edifying and that glorify you, God. I pray that you give us hearts to learn and ears to hear what you have for us to learn today. Jesus, we love you. It's in your name that I pray. Amen. Amen. Okie dokie. So, our guiding question today is, in what ways does a deeper understanding of Psalm 139, verses 13 through 18, impact our understanding of who God is and who we are as his creation? So, to start, we are going to read Psalm 139 together completely. So, if we turn there, Psalm 139, yay. So, 24 of us.
Oh, I have a heart next to it. That must mean it's a really good song.
It's a really good song.
Or it could just be, it starts with heart.
Everyone gets words.
Like one of the first words.
I love when I have a map major.
No, like I drew a heart.
Yeah,
like-
but it says the word heart. So
What?
it just
Heart? Interesting.
Mine does. Oh, maybe they might have different
It's in my
headings.
heading.
Gotcha.
Oh, it's a head. Oh, yeah. no,
Gotcha.
I have heart.
Okay.
Alright.
Never mind.
So, are you good if I start and then we'll read all the way through?
Mm.
Okay, so each 4 verses. Thank you, Abby. Alright. I'm looking at the wrong song. I was like, it says 40. Let's back it up real quick. Alright. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely.
Oh, sorry.
It's past
That's okay. Okay. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there.
If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you.
For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God, how vast is the sum of them.
If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake and I am still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain.
Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
Okay, so now that we've read this psalm all the way through, what themes stick out to you, like initially?
I think how God is in control of every moment.
Talks a lot about being known by God. And like known as in things about like what we're thinking or what we're doing, but then also like down to like the very depths of our like existence. It's like
love how one of your translations said like the very substance, because my translation says body, but like substance, it seems almost like very specific.
Yeah,
You know?
Your eyes saw my unformed substance.
So I think that really sticks out to me. One thing that initially sticks out to me, I've done a little research on this, but just like how like personally God knows us down to the very detail, kind of what y'all are saying. So I think that's just something that really sticks out to me about like who God is. Any other thoughts? Are you gonna go into question 2? Okay, so we're gonna dive a little more in depth with this, my specific passage. So I'll reread verses 13 through 18, and then as I read, I want you guys to be thinking about kind of what characteristics of God stand out to you, and then where else in the psalm do you see those same characteristics. Alright. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you.
I guess verse 13 makes me, it seems to highlight the beginning of the chapter where God knows exactly, like when I sit down and rise up and know my thoughts, the things that seem secret or unknown to us or that would be unknown to other people, God knows, and He knows the secret things of when we were being made, and He was very much a part of that.
Yeah. I think that was the main thing I was thinking about too, where I was like, oh my goodness, it's reiterated throughout the song, which is super cool. Excuse me.
I think in verse 18 we see that God is steadfast, because it says, I awake and I am still with you. He's present with us constantly.
Which is kind of reflected in verse 7. Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. So yeah.
Everywhere we go, He is with us. That was super good. I think something that sticks out to me in verse 11 is like, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, and like yet He can still see us. And I think that kind of connects to when I was like woven together in the depths of the earth, made in the secret place. I think that kind of, even in this most secluded area, in this most far away place, God is still there, and He can still see us, and we are not hidden from Him. What other thoughts? Otherwise, we can happily move on to the next. Okie dokie. So, in the New International Biblical Commentary, Craig C. Broyles writes, God is portrayed as a skilled weaver and the speaker as his handiwork. God's interest in the speaker from his life's beginning evidences God's personal and long-term investment in him. So with that additional research and interpretation, what are your thoughts on this interpretation? And then how does this quote shed light on who God is and who we are as his creation?
I guess I'm struck by the connection between skilled weaver and long-term investment. Because I think often when I have read this psalm before, I've more thought about like how God made me when I was not yet born, but haven't thought as much about how like he's still making me and still forming me, which is like it's a truth that I know, but never necessarily thought about his current investment in like how this psalm points to his current investment in my life.
I think you putting those two together made me kind of think about how like I think about crocheting or like Anna Chasen with your like needlework, how like that that takes time because you make it look beautiful, and it's a long-term investment. I think sometimes when I've thought about this passage, it's kind of like a very like fast fashion-esque making, and it's like this thinking about it as like a long-term investment. Like there is so much detail, so much thought that goes into that creation process, and I think you bringing those two things together really like paints such a beautiful picture of like how intentional God is in making each one of us.
Yeah, like going along with that, kind of thinking about like, you know, he like knitted us together, and like when you think about the rest of creation, how he like spoke in it came to be, and that's still like amazing, but it just shows like how much more detail even than and like time he spent creating us than the rest of creation, which is amazing as it is. And so I don't know, it's just kind of a little bit of contrast there, but it also helps you realize just like how special we are to God, that he would take that time
to like detail. You know, it's like we're mortal and we've like been created that way, and yet he's so detailed. I love that. That's good. That's a good profound thought. Ready to move on? Okay. So I have a commentary. This is from like the ancient Christian commentary. Psalms 51 through the end of the Psalms.
150 is the end of the Psalms. I found that out today.
Oh no, you're good. I think I remembered it was a 50 because there's like a 51 and a 50. So Thank you for. I'm not gonna forget that. It's good. So would anyone like to read this commentary by Ambrose?
I can.
Okay.
Therefore, the Lord supported us when he fashioned us. He supports us also when he bids us to be born. Consequently, the just person says, "You have supported me from my mother's womb." Whose mothers? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Those whom the Lord knows, he also supports. He supports them even in their coming forth. And before you come forth from your mother's womb, I sanctified you. He is our supporter, for he has supported us with his hands. He is called a supporter as the creator of the human race. And he is our supporter, for he has supported us by his visitations, that he may protect us. In view of this, the psalmist himself says in another passage, "He that dwells in the aid of the Most High shall say to the Lord, you are my supporter and my refuge." The first support is that God is working in us. The second is of his protection of us. Indeed, listen to Moses, saying, spreading his wings, he received them and supported them upon his shoulders. He supported them like the eagle, which was accustomed to examining its progeny so as to keep and to bring up those whom it observed and processed the qualities of a true offspring and the gift of an undamaged constitution, and to reject those on our deeds, but also on our word and thought, whom it detected weakness of a degenerate origin, even at that tender age.
So as you think about that interpretation, what are you noticing about, again, who we are as God's creation from this reading? And then how does this additional perspective actually affect kind of your understanding of the passage? That's a great question. And I don't know.
Isn't it offspring?
That was, if I didn't want to guess based off of something like this, but I think in this kind of context, if I had to guess on like the etymology, I think it'd be something with like the offspring or creation of. Someone's welcome to look that up, because that is definitely something.
I want to say it was like firstborn offspring. That could be.
So
A descendant or the descendant of a person, animal, or plant offspring.
okay. Excellent job, Anna Jason, with that. You know what? I'm just gonna keep your hair up.
I don't really understand the end of that eagle analogy, like the last 3 lines. I'm just
Yeah.
confused.
I think I get that. I guess I was making this. I was like, you like. I think it's just kind of, again, because it's going into. He's been protecting us. I think it's an example like elsewhere in the Bible where like God is protecting and providing and sustaining and supporting, because in the first half of the commentary he's talking about how God has been supporting us, and then I think like spreading his wings we receive them as and supported them upon his shoulders. So I think that's kind of an example, and I think which was accustomed to examining its progeny, so to keep and to bring up those who observe the process. So I think it's kind of talking about God's protection of us and support of us. But
I guess I was more talking about like where it says process the qualities of a true offspring and the gift of an undamaged constitution, to reject those on our deeds, but also on our words and thoughts, whom it detected weakness of a degenerate origin, even at the tender age.
I think it's a little confusing. So that I think it's interesting. But yeah, I think you draw attention to something that's very interesting and good for me to know for future reference. But if we go back to the first half, what sticks out to you from there?
I like how it talks a lot about support. And not just that God knows us, he supports us. And if he supported us when we were, being created and like basically nothing, then of course he would support us now when we're, alive, like we're growing up out of this thing.
before y'all got here, I was like highlighting things that stuck out to me. And like the sentence of like, those whom the Lord forms, he also supports. He supports them even in their coming forth. And I think it just going like, it just really connects to me about like who we are as like we have a Father who like cares deeply and that like is with us for the long haul and is like with us. So I think that's something that really sticks out to me about poems.
I just get the image of like a weight-bearing column or like a cane, or crutches or something that like we're having to depend on, and like can't really keep going without. And I think it's easy for me to live life trying to depend on myself and ignoring the fact that I genuinely need God to live my life. So that's it. I like the verbiage of support. The diction that he uses.
I do. Just think of like a baby when you're like a baby's learning to walk and you're like just deeply like you are invested, and it connects back to the other interpretation that we discussed about like God's deep investment in us. That's good. So as we move on, I'm gonna go a little nerd on you. I'm excited. So basically, some ancient Near Eastern perspectives in history often depict deities personally knowing individuals before birth who were often royals. Though there have been some documents showing that this stretches to like just ordinary people. So Walton writes, but this personal touch also extends to more ordinary people, as seen in a scribe's prayer in which he claims to have begotten and created, where a scribe claims to have been begotten and created by the God. So this is in, I think it's in Zibcot. I don't know, did you use Zibcot in Old Testament this semester? Zondervan.
Not that I know of.
That's okay. But he has two, I think. He has one that's like a textbook and it's from that one. But so with that in mind, what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare an ancient Near Eastern perspective, which we'll read. I'll read it out loud, and I think it's on your paper. And then we will read Job, 2 verses from Job, and then Psalm 139, 13 through 15. And I want us to kind of like compare to see what's similar and what's different, and then we can kind of just chat about what stands out to you from this experience. So, does someone want to read Job 10, and then someone read Job 31, and then someone read Psalm 139? Yeah, Job 10.
Sure. I can do Job 31.
Perfect. You can do Psalm 139. Okay. And I'll still turn
Okay, that's Job 17.
there. Job.
There we go.
Alright, whenever you're ready.
8 to 12. Okay. Job 10, 8 to 12. Your hand shaped me and made me. Will you now turn and destroy me? Remember that you molded me like clay. Will you now turn me to dust again? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? Clothe me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. You gave me life and showed me kindness, and in your providence watched over my spirit.
If I have rejected the cause of my manservant or my maidservant, when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he makes inquiry, what shall I answer him? Did not he make me in the womb? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb?
For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth.
So this is from a Wigerman and Stoll. And this is talking about a Babylonian god, Marduk, and this is what the excerpt writes. Marduk says, "Let me knock blood, let me bring about bones, let me set up a human being, man be its name." Some scholars debate the exact meaning of Marduk's words. Stoll claims that the word blood could also be used for blood vessels. As a result, a potential concerns regarding the true understanding of this passage can be avoided. Blood vessels are seen as a network knitted by the god. So, now that we've read those three passages, what similarities stand out? What differences stand out? What are y'all thinking?
I like that you included Job because we just talked about Job in the Old Testament today. But it's interesting that in the midst of Job's wrestling, he's still declaring truths about God and remembering God's goodness in making him, and like chapter 10 verse 12, you have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Even in the midst of his lament and his crying out and his like, why God, he's still remembering God's love, and that definitely is an echo of Psalm 139, but also with the complexity of God, this is hard.
Because we're covering Job on Thursday in Old Testament, and it's like, because we're in poetry now, so it's fun to see like two different poetic terms, like two different modes kind of still reiterating this truth. One thing that I really love about this is seeing how like this like intentional design is found once again with God. One thing that I loved is like, did you not pour me out like milk? Sorry, that was the Minnesota in me. And curdle me like cheese. Because one thing that, so basically this is a tangent, I have to explain. So I love watching The Amazing Race, and there was this challenge where you have to make milk. You make cheese curds via goat milk. And what was so hard is the way that you actually like make cheese is it has to be at like a precise temperature. It can't be too cold and it can't be too hot. And then you have to consistently stir in the right like pace at the right time. So it takes this like detailed work. So I think this like example of that just shows me again, even in like a different section of the Bible, about God's like design and his just intentionality with creating humans. So that's just something that I really love about that section. But I also love how you connected just like with Job's suffering and with his lament, he still is praising God and is still aware of his kindness and his steadfast love. So,
Something I thought was interesting, the first Job passage and then the Psalm both talk about like God creating a soul in us also. And like the Babylonian thing, he like talks about like the blood, the bones, and like that's a human being. And so just kind of like the difference there of like God created us with more than just a physical body, as important as our physical bodies are. Kind of like that distinction between God creating us with a soul and then kind of like these worldly gods, I guess, just being like, oh, here's the things that physically make up a person, that's a man.
I think that's kind of something that stuck out to me as I was like listening to Job, and then have like done some research where it's like, yes, there have been times where gods create humanity or a person, but it for me, it just, I'm not seeing, even in other research I've done, of this this deep knowing of like a soul, or more than just like the body. There's something, like a life form within it. So I think that's a really insightful thought. Any other thoughts? Because I have more. So this is something that I think is really interesting. So as I mentioned kind of previously, often in ancient Near Eastern perspectives, when it's talking about like someone, a deity forming a human, it's usually like a royal, like someone that's royalty, someone that's like an advisor, someone that's prestigious, and it's like has been seen that it's sometimes discussing ordinary people, but usually it's primarily royalty. And something with Psalm 139 is like it's assumed that David wrote the psalm, he was a king. So for me, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, this obviously with scripture, if it's something that's been applicable to many people, but the set Job 12 that I have it, 31. Thank you. Basically that's Job saying to these other people that he's being frustrated with, like, did you not make them as well? So, and like Job is this is poetry, but also he's the main guy. It's like these are other people, and he's just reiterating like, God, you made all of us. You like intricately made each one of us. So I think that's something that is just reiterated again, like God made each one of us like this, and it's just, I just love it. So I think that's just really interesting. Are there any other thoughts that you guys are having?
Well, in that Job passage, he specifically mentions his servants and how God made both him and his servants. I think is my interpretation of it. Yeah. So like not only did God make Job and each one of his friends, but also like Job's servants. So that like your point about
just any person, whether they do great things, like they're servants, like there's this level of, so I just, so I think that's really good that you've been like, I've been taught this by Dr. Buster, where it's like whenever we think something or we make an interpretation, like we look to the text and we say like, where are you seeing that? And it's like, it's cool that you point out like the servants, people that are seen as more lowly, from my perspective of what I do now, which is not a lot. That's just so cool, and I love seeing that. So, any other thoughts, or are we ready to move on? All right. So then, moving on from that, we've kind of discussed this a little bit, but how does this piece of cultural context actually like deepen your understanding of the context of Psalm 139?
I think it like shows how just like for example, like how unique God's relationship with us is in comparison to like other religions with their gods, like and how they depict them as like kind of like aloof or like not really caring about humans as like individuals, but like the psalm says that like God knows, God formed us and he like knows all our days. I think it says that somewhere. And yeah, I think that's just, that shows how like, yeah, how like God sees us as more than just like some random thing that he created. It's like on a personal level.
Yeah. That was good. I think for me, I really love like going to Job and coming back and kind of seeing that reframed. I think for me, just knowing, and I've been reiterating this because I love it, it's just like God is so intentional and He loves us so much. And even when we're unformed, before like we have done anything, that's something that as I was doing one of my word study assignment, like my exegetical worksheet, one thing that stood out to me is like before we ever did anything, God like weaved us together. We don't have to do anything to actually be deeply known by God. And I think seeing this perspective, like having the context of, and we read one, ancient Near Eastern perspective just teaches me of like how, like it's different, like we have a soul, God knows us, we're more than just a body, we're more than that. And I think we see that through this excerpt of Psalm 139, so I love that. That's so pretty. It's like a heart. So with that, we've been talking about ancient Near Eastern perspectives, and through that, I think we might have kind of chatted a little bit about this question earlier, but has anything changed, or what has this context kind of actually impacted your character, your way of understanding the character of who God is?
I guess bringing in like a little bit more about the ancient Near Eastern stuff, like my professor has mentioned the way in which a lot of the gods were seen, like the people and the gods were kind of interdependent on each other, in the sense of if people served the gods, and kind of like the gods were dependent on the people for like food and clothing and stuff like that. If the people served the gods and sacrificed their stuff to them, then the gods would bless the people. And so that's such a contrast to what you were saying about how God knew us and loved us before we did anything. And there's nothing, like, His thoughts toward us are precious. Like, what? He just loves us.
And that's beautiful. Like, snap, snap, snap. And this is the thing, I love when I realize I'm learning about things. This is like something that I love it. But when you brought that up, it made me think about something in my Old Testament class, that when we were learning about the Exodus, how like God rescued the people of Israel before the law ever came to be. So like it was always God rescued first. So like that's just it. I just love seeing, like, as we think about how we are understanding the character of God, it's this consistency that the God of Israel, when he brought the people of Israel like out of Egypt with his mighty outstretched arm, like and it's like that's the same God, and I see that, and I just think I know it's so beautiful, and I feel it, and I know it, and I think it, and I love it. That's so good.
Hannah, you always have such like wonderful things to say. It always makes me happy.
We're almost there. Alright, we have two more times, and we have a little time to chill now. So I'll reread Psalm verses 13 through 18. And then as I read, I want you to think about, in light of this truth that we have discovered that God intricately designed us and shaped each one of us, I want you just to think about like what thoughts and feelings you're having about this truth and what's coming to the surface with that, and then how does that truth actually affect other areas of your life. So we'll spend 2 to 3 minutes. Just, you can journal on this sheet. I have pens and markers and papers here. And then this can be something that's more personal. We won't be sharing this stuff, so it's something that's more personal to you. And then we will have more of a sharing and away exercise for that. So we'll come back at like 7:49. Finish your thought, your last sentence, and then we'll draw back together. Okay, so now that we've had some individual time to actually reflect on this truth, how has a deeper understanding of the passage that we've looked into more impacted your understanding of who God is and who you are as His creation? And then we'll spend 3 more minutes reflecting on what you've learned silently. And we can write that down and journal it down. And then write down 2 ways that you're actually going to apply what you've learned to your life. And then we'll share one in a group. And then we'll be all done. So we'll come back at 7:50. mountain/thought. Okey-dokey. So anyone wanting to share their way first? Or I can go first.
You're our leader.
Yay! Okay. Which one do I want to share? I'll go with the second one. Oh my god. This week, I am going. Sometimes if I'm getting frustrated at someone, or if something's like irritating me, I'm gonna remember that just as I was, just how I've been intricately woven and designed by God, so is every other person. And if God deeply knows them and loves them and has spent time to form them, I can be patient and kind and actually be compassionate, even if I am sinning and angry. So I think that's a way that I'm going to live out this truth in my life.
Julie, that was one of mine.
Really?
That was one of mine too.
Oh my
That was also one of mine. Go.
Y'all are different. You're not like other girls.
You're special. You know I don't love you well. Exactly. Whoa.
We have honesty here. Thank you for sharing. You can repeat if that's.
Oh, I can
Yeah.
share my other one. No, I was gonna share my other one anyway. I was gonna say, I can be kinder to myself.
That's what I said.
What?
Oh my
Julia, we're like the same person.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like when you self-deprecate, you're hurting God's creation that He loves. So like, don't do that. So I need to like not do that to myself because I'm hurting God's creation. I'm gonna do that. So yeah, we're just on the same.
We're on the same couch.
We're on the same wavelength. That's great.
We're both doing Bible studies. Like,
Ah,
it's our day.
What I thought of was just saying a prayer once a day of like reminding myself of who God is as my maker, my lover, and my support, and just thanking Him that He loved me before I ever did anything, and He still loves me, and I still am weak and helpless and childlike, and He still loves me.
He's so good.
What I was thinking of is one of my professors yesterday was talking about how like it's important. Like I feel like we pray often to like love other people, and like to love ourselves, but not as much like to just like that God would give us love for Him, and like desire for Him. So I think I felt convicted by that, and this passage especially, I was like God is like there for me and He loves me so much, and like sometimes I feel like I don't have like a very strong desire to like read my Bible and things. So I was thinking like finding ways like being more intentional about like spending time with God and like praying that He would give me love for Him, not just for like those around me, because He's the one that's most important.
Mine's a little bit similar to Lauren's, but I think something I struggle a lot with is like comparing myself to others, and I want to try when I kind of get in that like mental headspace of being like, I wish I was like this person, I feel like I'm not good enough compared to this person, like instead of doing that, like, think about the things that God has made in me that are, like, unique and beautiful. And then, yeah, like, remind myself that I am part of his, like, good creation, and I don't have to be like someone else because he made each of us unique.
Yeah, mine are kind of similar too, that I had, to, like, take more time to, like, listen to, like, if I need to rest or something, because a lot of the times I don't do that. And I think, yeah, for some reason I just don't like, just, like, resting or not doing anything. But I have to remember that, like, rest is a good thing that God wants us to do. Yeah. We need it, so, yeah.
Yay. Made it through.
Good job, Billy.
Good job.
I'll praise that real quick. God, thank you so much for this time. Lord, thank you just for giving us the space to rest in your word and rest in who you are. God, you have supported us before we were even born. You have been our companion and our guide and our sustainer and our supporter throughout every season of our life. Lord, thank you for loving us. Thank you for knitting us together before we ever did anything. God, I pray that as we step out from this time that you give us the strength and the courage to live out that truth and to rest in your love. And God, I pray that as we rest in your love, that we develop a love to love others and love you because of how you have loved us. Lord, we thank you for your good, your steadfast mercy and love endures forever. God, thank you for being our refuge in times of need. God, you have supported us, and you will continue as we head into the last few weeks of school. God, we love you. We praise you. It's in your son's name, Jesus, that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'll pass the video. And then, it's time.
Did you say it's time to pop off?
I did say it's time to pop off.